On the day of the car accident, I died on the operating table. In my final moments, I heard my biological parents declare, "Sophie Wilson is our daughter. We have authority over her organs. And just take one kidney now, Emily needs immediate surgery." Emily, the fake heiress who stole my life. When I reopened my eyes, I found myself back on the day they brought me home. The 3-square-meter room reeked of rotting garbage. Bound to the bed with angry red rashes covering my body. I faintly registered the locked door and boarded window. Yet I hummed cheerfully, knowing salvation would come. Right on cue. Violent pounding shook the door accompanied by familiar wails. "Sophie! We're here. Hold on. Sophie! Say something." I switched from relaxation mode instantly, letting out a pitiful whimper. "Help!" The door burst open. My biological parents rushed in with tear-filled eyes, crushing me in their embrace. "You've suffered so much. Sophie. Let's go home." Home. Back to the house that witnessed my unjust death. After being starved for 3 days by Rebecca, I received 4 nutrients at the local hospital. My mother sobbed uncontrollably while my father made furious calls demanding my adoptive mother's arrest. The door creaked open to reveal a girl in an exquisite princess gown and lavish jewelry. She rushed over excitedly, sweetly calling me sister. I knew her, Emily. My parents' cherished adopted daughter. They'd raised her as their own until discovering the hospital mix-up when her genetic kidney disease surfaced. They'd kept spoiling her while searching for me, calling it karmic justice, as if that excused leaving their blood daughter in squalor while Emily enjoyed designer tutors and debutante balls. "Sophie. This is your sister Emily." My mother sniffled. I smiled innocently. "What a beautiful dress. Little sister. May I touch it?" Grubby fingers smeared stains across the pastel fabric before I withdrew. "Thank you. But I shouldn't. Rebecca always said nice clothes get ruined around me." My biological mother erupted in fresh tears. "That monster. Locking you up without food in summer heat. The doctor said those rashes could lead to sepsis. I'll sue her into bankruptcy." Head bowed. I whispered, "Just having you here is enough." They vowed never to leave my side, their eyes overflowing with devotion. I nearly laughed. Last lifetime. They'd cradled me like treasure too, until Emily's schemes left me bleeding out on that operating table. "Sophie Wilson is our daughter. We have authority over her organs. Just take one kidney now, Emily needs immediate surgery." Their voices still haunted me. When my parents suggested taking me home to recuperate, tears welled in my eyes. But Rebecca won't let me go with anyone. She beats me every time I try to leave the house. "You can't take me away," I whispered, trembling. "Mom. Dad. I don't want to be hurt anymore." Pulling up my sleeves, I revealed twisted scars and oozing wounds that made my father gasp. My mother turned deathly pale, muffling sobs behind her hands. "No. Sweetheart." Dad insisted, voice cracking. "We're taking you home. We'll protect you now." Mom stroked my matted hair. "This was all our fault, we should have found you sooner. We'll make everything right." I stared at the floor. "But Emily, your daughter. I don't want to steal her family. 13 years without love. I'm used to it. Our blood runs in your veins." Mom cried. "From now on, you'll want for nothing." As I collapsed into her arms, Emily watched through narrowed eyes. "Of course we'll welcome you," she cooed, plastic smile stretching. "Right, sis?" No one noticed her clenched fists. This same angelic face had ordered my murder in my past life after stealing my inheritance. Not this time. That evening, security dragged Rebecca into the shabby motel room. 20 grand or no deal. The hag spat when Dad demanded custody. I paid good money for that brat. Mom's composure shattered. "You bought my child? We'll bury you in lawsuits. Try prison cuisine instead." Dad snapped, signaling guards to remove her. That night, Mom held me tight while Emily tossed restlessly in her guest bed. 2 weeks later, court orders granted my freedom as Rebecca got carted off in handcuffs. The wrought iron gates of our estate parted to reveal Maggie, the head housekeeper, curtsying deeply. "Welcome home, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Welcome, Sophie." Emily. Her syrupy tone couldn't mask the venom in her gaze when our eyes met. "Everything prepared?" Dad asked, guiding us inside. "Of course, sir," Maggie simpered, fingers whitening around her apron. I smiled faintly. This viper had helped Emily poison me last lifetime. "Let the games begin." I smiled. "It's nothing." How fascinating. It seemed everything remained identical to my previous life. Maggie still lurked in our home, watching her biological daughter Emily live as the cherished heiress of the Wilson family, indulging in luxury while she drew a salary to personally care for the girl. What brilliant devotion, switching infants at the hospital, then infiltrating my parents' household as the nanny. Such fervent yet twisted maternal love. Meanwhile, the true heiress Sophie became their sacrificial lamb. Last time, I'd only learned the truth after dying. Now, I'd skin them all alive layer by layer. Let no one escape unscathed. My parents handed me a black card containing 20 million. "Do whatever you want," they said, adding various properties to my name. Regarding accommodations, Maggie had prepared the mansion's grandest suite for me under the guise of generosity. I shook my head. "Mom, Dad, this is Emily's room. I'd never take what's hers. Any space will do, as long as I'm with you both." Last lifetime, Maggie had weaponized this very act of generosity, transferring all Emily's possessions to me until my parents grew disgusted by my perceived greed. Not this time. They praised my thoughtfulness. Maggie reluctantly showed me to a modest guest room. When Mom sent her over with armfuls of designer dresses, I selected the exact lily print gown Emily had worn when I'd accidentally spilled juice on it days prior. "Emily," I beamed, approaching my pale-faced sister, "please accept this replacement. Let's both change into new dresses and go out." "Yes." My fingers brushed the pollen-dusted fabric. She stiffened. "These are yours, Sophie." "I have plenty." Tears welled in my eyes. "Mom, Emily's still angry with me. Maybe I should leave." "Of course not," Emily interjected hastily. Mom sighed. "Humor your sister, dear." 20 minutes later in the garden, Emily collapsed with hives, Maggie screaming as paramedics hauled her allergic daughter away. I smiled. A simple DNA test could expose them instantly, but where's the fun in that? Let them stew in their own poison. The diagnosis came swiftly: severe reaction to plain tree pollen. "But we've none in our garden." Dad frowned. I bit my lip, well aware Maggie had laced all my new clothes with the allergen. Last life, they'd blamed my rashes on Rebecca, the woman who'd raised me. By the time my allergies subsided years later, scars riddled my skin. Not this time. The real performance was just beginning. So, the fiancé who should have been mine was easily snatched away by Emily. All the hardships I endured back then, I'll make sure she tastes every last one of them. Now, Maggie guiltily lowered her head as my parents pressed for answers. Emily feigned weakness and spoke up. "Mom, Dad, it's my fault. I sneaked out earlier because the sycamore trees looked so beautiful. I lost track of time." My parents' suspicions dissolved instantly. "Just focus on recovering, sweetheart," they soothed. "Mommy, I feel awful." Emily burrowed into my mother's arms, who fretfully checked her temperature. Those calculated eyes slid toward me. "Sorry, Sophie. I'll only borrow Mommy for a little while. I'll give her back when I feel better." "Oh, pulling the innocent act?" I rose hastily, glancing at my parents with practiced timidity. "You and Emily share such a special bond. Of course Mom should stay with you while you're sick." Turning to our mother, I added brightly, "I can sleep alone tonight. You should stay at the hospital with Emily." Pathetic. Did she think I still craved their doting attention? Let her hoard every scrap of it. She wouldn't be scheming much longer anyway. Mom patted my head. "You're so mature, Sophie." Emily's face darkened. She was realizing I wasn't the pushover she'd imagined. Her hospitalization dragged on for weeks, endless complaints of migraines and phantom rashes. When even her theatrics grew stale, Mom finally brought her home. At dinner, Emily aggressively served everyone, her desperation palpable. As I carried a steaming bowl of soup, she lunged. The scalding liquid splashed across her arm. Ow! Sophie, why would you burn me? She wailed. Our parents froze, their view obstructed by Emily's earlier maneuvering. While they scrambled to treat her injuries, I discreetly pressed my right hand against the still, hot pot. The blister swelled instantly. Before anyone could blame me, I lifted my ruined hand, raw flesh glistening. I tried to move the bowl when you jumped up. Emily. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you better. Mom and Dad rushed to my side this time, their sidelong glances at Emily speaking volumes. My critical burns earned me an ER trip, leaving Emily alone at the table, ghostly pale. That afternoon, she sat shadowed beside me on the couch while our parents conferred upstairs. I smirked. Amateur hours over. Emily. Enjoy squatting in someone else's nest much longer? Her head snapped toward me. You think blood matters? I'll destroy you. She hissed. I yanked her hair until tears sprang. Time to crawl back to whatever gutter birthed you. She screamed in pain, and her parents rushed out at the sound. Tearfully, she sobbed. Mom, Dad. Sophie hit me and pulled my hair. Maggie quickly chimed in, terrified of losing the upper hand. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. It's true. The young miss did strike her. My parents glared at me disapprovingly. As I stood to leave, they stopped me. Tears welled up in my eyes. Yes, I hit Emily. But she said I'll always be Rebecca's child. That you abandoned me on purpose because you hated me. That I'm unworthy of your love. That you only took me back out of guilt. My voice broke. After finally having a family, hearing those things made me snap. I'll let her hit me back if that's what you want. But, I paused meaningfully. If you truly don't want me, I'll leave. I won't make this harder for you. My words pierced them like daggers. Mother collapsed into heaving sobs, clutching me. No. We've loved you every second. We barely slept these past years searching. Father's eyes glistened. This is your home. Sophie. Emily shrieked. She's lying. I never said that. Biting my lip, I murmured. If my sister hates me this much, I should go. To placate me. Father turned stern. Emily. You've always been sensible. How could you wound your sister like this? As Emily and Maggie began protesting over each other, Father snapped. Enough. Your sister's had a difficult life. We expect you to support her. Our love is equal for both daughters. Emily stomped in frustration while Maggie sweated nervously. This was only the beginning. Hadn't they used these same manipulative tactics for years? In the following days, my parents cooled toward Emily, who desperately tried redeeming herself with endless tea serving and back rubs. Their years of bonding eventually softened them. The temporary setback quieted Maggie's scheming for a week. When school started, Father enrolled me in Emily's elite prep academy. On registration day, Emily immediately told classmates, Sophie's an illiterate hick who can't read. Though my allowance dwarfed hers, Emily's pocket money still bought her a gang of sycophants. They tormented me daily, mocking me to recite times tables, drawing turtles on my textbooks. Finally, I dumped the trash from my desk onto Emily's, staring coldly. Too scared to face me yourself? Hiding behind lackeys? She sneered. What's there to fear from an idiot? Smiling, I proposed. Then let's wager. If I outrank you next exam, your allowance drops to $300 monthly. If I lose, do your worst. Her cronies froze. They'd just learned I was the Wilson heiress. Under peer pressure, Emily scoffed. Deal. We signed duplicate contracts, presenting mine to our parents. I explained. We're having a study competition. Will you witness our pact? They beamed at our sibling bonding. The game was on. My parents agreed without hesitation. As for the midterm exam results, it went without saying, even if she studied for another decade, she could never surpass me. After all, from our past life onward, she'd always trailed behind me academically. Back then, I treasured my second chance at life, obeying my parents and studying relentlessly, surviving on 5 hours of sleep, spending 6 months in tutoring to catch up with middle school curriculum. Through persistent effort, I eventually claimed the top spot permanently. Meanwhile, Emily approached academics the same way she approached life, expecting rewards without effort. Reduced to cheating like some pathetic clown. When the grades were announced, the whole class stared at me in shock before turning complicated glances toward Emily. She flushed with panic, glaring at me through gritted teeth. That evening, my parents praised me as a genius after seeing my perfect report card. Under my watchful gaze, they confiscated Emily's credit card. "Third place isn't terrible," Mom said patronizingly. "If you improve by 1 rank next time, we'll reconsider restoring your privileges." Emily nodded tearfully. I smiled. The current second placer was her cheating accomplice, a student from a strict family who could only afford to take second place now that I'd arrived. Climbing to second would be impossible for her. Emily soon became the school's resident cautionary tale. While classmates dined on gourmet lunches, she hid in empty classrooms nibbling plain buns. When friends discussed weekend shopping sprees for designer bags and jewelry, she could only clutch her empty wallet in silent fury. Even at social gatherings she once dominated, she now showed up empty-handed. Gradually, her entourage dwindled to nothing. Former allies who'd mocked me now shot her contemptuous looks. I checked, "She's just the Johnsons' adopted daughter." Someone whispered loudly, "Sophie's the real heiress. Haven't you noticed? Ever since Sophie came home, Mr. Wilson froze Emily's allowance. She'll get kicked out soon anyway. Acting all high and mighty when she's fake." Another voice sneered. Emily caught the mid-gossip. "You licked my boots before," she shrieked, face crimson. Miss Chen, a frequent target of Emily's past bullying, drawled sarcastically, "They were bootlicking the Wilson name. Not you. Know your place. Imposter." I snorted. Emily lunged at her, slapping Miss Chen across the face. "How dare you speak to me?" Though the Chens ranked below the Wilsons socially, Miss Chen wasn't one to take humiliation. They brawled viciously, pulling hair, scratching arms, until teachers intervened. My parents rushed to school. Witnesses confirmed Emily through the first punch, and Dad couldn't risk his reputation by defending her. The matter ended with forced apologies from my parents. At home, Dad berated Emily in the living room. "I haven't apologized to anyone in years. Thanks to you. I had to grovel like some beggar." Mom patted his chest placatingly. Teenage fights happen. Between Emily's tearful promises and my helpful suggestions, Dad decided to suspend her allowance for 2 years. Her wails intensified. Now destitute, Emily's predicament most affected Mike, her biological brother. Their mother Maggie, while incompetent, doted excessively on both children. Having failed to swap her son into the Wilson family during the baby switch, Maggie compensated by spoiling Mike rotten. Emily used to share half her monthly allowance, hundreds of thousands, with him, funding his designer wardrobe and luxurious downtown penthouse. Maggie had assumed this arrangement would last forever. Michael Davis truly believed his mother Margaret earned a high salary working as a nanny for a wealthy family. The two of them spent money lavishly, treating cash like water and barely keeping any savings. Emily Johnson had long considered herself royalty. Even her original allowance wasn't enough for her spending habits, let alone having any savings. Now that their financial pipeline had dried up, Maggie was running around in panic, constantly barging into Emily's room to discuss God knows what. Remembering my past life experiences, I activated the compact camera I'd purchased, placed it in an inconspicuous corner of the room, and left the house. In a dimly lit alleyway, I spotted Mike squatting outside an underground casino, irritably smoking a cigarette. Damn it. When I had money they kissed my ass. But now that I'm broke they won't even let me in? Fucking money, grubbing bastards. Mike was a gambling addict. In my previous life after I died, Emily successfully took over my father's company. After discovering Emily was his biological sister, he gambled recklessly everywhere, accumulating debts. Emily proved ruthless, ignoring Maggie's desperate pleas to sever ties with Mike. She coldly watched as casino enforcers chopped off his fingers. I can still recall his blood-curdling screams, the tears streaming down his face as he passed out from the pain. If only he knew the adopted daughter of the wealthiest family was his biological sister, he wouldn't be so miserable now. How pitiful. Let's give him a hand. When I returned home, Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch looking grim. Emily kept her head down, occasionally glancing at me from the corner of her eye. What's wrong? Mom? Dad? I asked innocently, though I knew exactly why. They motioned for me to sit down. Mom is missing a necklace. Do either of you know where it went? Emily shook her head. I don't know. I mirrored her denial. Their expressions darkened further. Maggie's off today. The first floor security cameras only show you two going up to the second floor. You're still young and might make wrong choices sometimes, Dad said. But admitting mistakes is virtuous. If you come clean now, we won't punish you. When neither of us spoke, they tried reasoning a bit longer before resorting to searching our rooms. Naturally, the necklace was discovered under my pillow. Dad's face flushed with anger, his hand twitching like he might slap me. Haven't we given you enough allowance? If you needed more money, why didn't you just ask instead of stealing? Mom crossed her arms, colder than I'd ever seen her. Sophie, these are terrible habits. I sobbed. I didn't steal anything. Dad barked. Then explain how the necklace got into your room. Did it grow legs and walk there by itself? Emily could barely contain her excitement, trembling as she spoke. Mom, Dad, I remember we keep confidential documents here. Sophie stealing a necklace is one thing, but if she took sensitive files to get me expelled from the family. Emily dropped her obedient act and instead steered our parents toward worst-case scenarios. Sure enough, their faces darkened. Still weeping, I went to my room and returned with the camera. The school field trip's coming up, so I bought this camera to test it out. It's been recording all day, since I wasn't home today. Let's see what really happened. Emily turned pale and screamed. No. Our parents exchanged strange looks before grimly taking the camera from me. After what felt like eternity, Dad stood up and slapped Emily across the face. Why would you frame your sister like this? Haven't we treated you well? Shocked, Emily collapsed onto the couch, blood trickling from her mouth as she wailed hysterically. Though angry, Mom's maternal instincts kicked in. She rushed to comfort Emily, choking out. Even if she made mistakes, you shouldn't have hit her so hard. What a devoted mother. I nearly laughed aloud. Where was this protectiveness when Dad was sending me to the operating table in my past life? After my dad flew into a rage, Emily was so terrified her eyes rolled back. She needed oxygen at the hospital to recover. Realizing he'd gone too far, Dad later showed some remorse and stayed with Mom to care for Emily at the hospital. Meanwhile, I went to their room, cracked the safe using my memory, and successfully photographed the Wilson family's financial records. The day I visited Emily's hospital room, chaos ensued. Mike stood there boldly demanding money from my parents. Emily is my biological sister. What's wrong with asking my own sister for cash? Since she's your adopted daughter, just give her the money yourselves. Like mother, like son, this trash apple didn't fall far from Maggie's tree. Comfort breeds entitlement. My parents stared at Mike in stunned silence until Dad finally asked, "Who's your mother?" "Margaret Davis. Your housekeeper, of course." Mike puffed his chest, clearly pleased with himself. When I'd tipped him off about Emily's identity earlier, I'd specifically mentioned how deeply our parents cherished their daughter, perfect bait for his gambling debts. "I want $70,000 today. And you'll keep paying monthly," Mike declared. already counting imaginary money. My parents summoned Maggie immediately. Emily chose that moment to wake up screaming. "I don't know him. Make him leave. He's a scammer." "Your own brother calling me a fraud?" Mike snapped. "Wait till Mom gets here, she'll slap the lies out of you." When Maggie arrived ghost pale, her idiot son brandished photographic evidence, a young Maggie holding a baby with distinctive facial moles. The timestamp read March 2nd, 2001 at Central Hospital. Turns out she'd kept a memento from when she swapped the babies. Dad's business-honed instincts kicked in. "You sold our real daughter and made us raise yours?" His voice turned arctic. Maggie collapsed trembling as police sirens approached. In the aftermath, Emily pulled a 24-hour coma until Dad sighed. "Wake up. Sophie. We raised you, we won't abandon you." The tears came instantly. Across the room, Mom's gaze kept drifting to me, the daughter who'd engineered this entire reckoning. When I found out Maggie Davis was my biological mother, I was already 6 years old. We had no emotional bond, I only considered you two my real parents. She threatened me. Said she'd expose my true identity unless I gave her money. That's why I did it. But none of that mattered anymore. After prolonged deliberation, my parents clearly decided to compromise. "Fine. As long as you fix your bad habits and cut ties with them, we'll continue supporting you." Emily immediately began swearing oaths, kowtowing and bowing repeatedly. I watched coldly, remembering how in my previous life when her kidneys failed and no matching donor could be found, Dad had forced me to donate mine. I'd begged just as desperately then, only to be beaten bloody for being heartless and letting family die. "We never should have brought you home." Yet now, despite Emily's sordid background, they still chose forgiveness. Some decisions can't be avoided. Later, Maggie went to prison while Mike was released. I hired someone to deliver photographic evidence of the account books to Dad's business rival. The subsequent lawsuit over countless discrepancies consumed the Wilson Group. Dad scrambled to contain the fallout while Mom ran around seeking solutions. After squandering the large sum I gave Mike, his gambling debts forced him back to our doorstep. Emily dragged him outside like confronting the plague. She didn't return until deep night. I listened from my room as her footsteps retreated to the bedroom. The next morning, I called Dad. The surveillance footage clearly showed Emily stealing cash from his bedroom. Already furious about corporate leaks, he seized her hair and smashed her head against the wall. "You're not even our blood. We treated you like our own. Yet you keep stealing, first jewelry, then money. Now company ledgers? That trash Maggie's genes finally showed. Get out before I kill you myself." Trembling in a pool of blood, Emily kept pleading. "Please Dad. I'll change. Don't abandon me." But Dad had security throw her out. She pounded on the gates screaming "Daddy," long after his car disappeared toward the courthouse. That night, torrential rain fell. I stood under my umbrella watching the drenched, bloodied figure. "Congratulations, Emily. You've reclaimed your true destiny." Hearing me, she lunged only to be kicked into the mud. "Now you're penniless and parentless. Stuck with a gambling addict brother. How thrilling. You've enjoyed my life long enough. Spend what's left atoning." Her venomous threats sounded like a wounded animal's whimpers, pitiful but irritating. "Oh. And don't expect Mom and Dad's mercy. Their fates will be worse than yours. Your birth mother? She only used you to benefit Mike. Speaking of, your brother owes over $1 million. At $3,000 monthly. You'll work starvation wages for 30 years. Have fun." Her scream pierced the darkness as she fled, alternating between sobs and manic laughter. When Mom returned and learned everything, her blood pressure skyrocketed. Popping pills. She insisted on searching for Emily. "She's just a child who made mistakes. Your father went too far." "Do you know where she went?" I nodded toward the street. She rushed out into the storm. Watching Emily's retreating figure, I expressionlessly drew the curtains. After several violent crashes and screams, I saw her get hit by a car while crossing the street, flung over a dozen meters, lying in a pool of blood. She turned toward my direction. I waved at her, smiling as I mouthed, "Rest in peace." My mother, Rebecca, didn't survive the emergency treatment. She'd rushed across the intersection without checking the traffic light. The driver only got a year in prison. The news hadn't yet reached my father, who was under isolated investigation. Not that he'd live to hear it. His company faced tax evasion and fraud charges. The massive fines bankrupted the business and landed him a 5-year sentence. News outlets everywhere exposed his crimes, turning him into a universally despised pariah. When I visited him in prison, he asked numbly, "Is your mother really dead?" I nodded calmly. "Yeah. It was brutal. She died rushing to meet Emily. Why bother going? Should have stayed home." Had she stayed, that driver wouldn't have appeared. She could have lived. At least survived. He broke down sobbing. I comforted him. "Don't worry. Reform well here. After your release," I grinned coldly, "I'll make your death far more painful." His head jerked up in terror as I waved goodbye. I'd long transferred the assets they'd given me, mere millions, but enough to fund my education. I studied relentlessly, eventually enrolling in a top university. Later, I heard Maggie was released from prison. Her son Mike had fled from loan sharks. Those thugs chopped off her right hand, forcing her to beg. But everyone knew her heartless deeds. No one spared her change. Even community relief funds got snatched by debt collectors before reaching her. Months later, she had her leg broken for stealing. One freezing night, she closed her eyes forever under an overpass. Mike didn't disappoint either. After relocating, he gambled again. This time, creditors found him, left him half dead. A disabled shell. He now waits to die alone in a hospital bed. After leaving Ming City, the memories faded. During a business trip years later, I returned. In a filthy alley, I saw a half-naked woman giggling as she ate from a dog bowl. A vicious mutt tore at her flesh, but she kept devouring the slop, oblivious. Noticing the teardrop mole on her face, I approached. "Emily?" Hearing the name, she looked up, blinking, then barked twice like a dog. I smiled. "Any regrets?" A flicker of anguish crossed her eyes before dullness returned. She'd forgotten human speech. I walked away. Her story had ended. Mine was just beginning.